All right, UCLA 42, Penn State 37. Let me repeat that. UCLA 42, Penn State 37. My name's Connor Griffin. Maybe foolishly, I thought that I wouldn't have to come on here and do another one of these embarrassing podcasts after a loss where I'm sad and depressed and angry and I just feel so pathetic. I did not think I was going to have to do another one of these until at least Ohio State. And now the Phillies are on, up 3-0 over the Dodgers. Bedlam at the bank, Red October. I can't even focus on that. I'm so furious and disappointed after what I just saw in that Penn State game. It is hands down the worst loss in James Franklin's career, at least his tenure at Penn State. I'm not going to speak to the Vanderbilt days. And it is 100% the worst loss that I have experienced as a Penn State fan, having been watching games for 20 years now, started in 2005 as a 5-year-old. And I just don't know how else you could paint this. This is absolutely inexcusable. Inexcusable. And we'll get into everything. It's been like 30 or 40 minutes since the game ended. I'm still I can't believe the thoughts that are rattling around in my head right now. Like, I'm so mad. So mad. I don't know the last time I've been this mad. It's been a long fucking time. Pardon my French. I know I normally don't curse in these videos. There's going to be some curse words in here. We're going to go all in on just letting it all out because this is outrageous. Outrageous. This team, people, they kept trying to tell me after Oregon, you have nothing to worry about. That game had no stakes. That game meant nothing. Everything lies ahead of you for the rest of this season. That's a really, really good Oregon team. You took them to double overtime, as if we weren't the favorites in that game, as if we didn't have home field advantage. You had Brandon Walker on Mosley Sports telling me, "Oh, that's a pick'em game. If those two teams were to square off next week on a neutral field, dude, we had them in our building, and we still couldn't beat them with 3 cupcakes and a bye leading up to that game, with all of our returners. And they had, I think, the third fewest returners in the Big Ten. It was an entirely new roster that they had in game 4 or 5, whatever it was for them, where they're on the road in that hostile environment, and we still couldn't beat them. That game was the season. That was a must-win game because you knew going into Columbus later in the year, that was going to be a test. You needed to beat Oregon. And at the very least, put aside this season and what it means for the playoff and what it means for records and all this type of stuff. It, at the very least, would have given you some confidence. This team that's been together now for about 2 years, Aller, Singleton, Catron, all those guys, Deny, they've been around for really 3 years. It's been their team. They've been around for 2 years, and they have not picked up a single big game win. And this was their best shot at doing it last week. And if they didn't get it done, I called it in the preseason. You could go back and watch my preseason preview back in August. I said if they didn't get it done against Oregon, that was going to have dire effects on the rest of this season because that's a must-win game where everything is in your favor. And if you lose it, this team might spiral. We're seeing the spiral right now, folks. This is it. And for James Franklin, once again, you can go back and look at everything I've said. I put out the video on Franklin for a reason before Oregon. And one of the biggest things that I was harping on in that video, and I tried not to really take a stance. I tried to just be right down the middle and tell you the facts, the good and the bad about his career and everything. I said the one real criticism I gave was the fact that in these press conferences he gives, he's preloading excuses almost every single time. Yeah, I don't know if it's because he's sensitive. I don't know if he's not used to this level of expectation and he's really struggling dealing with all this extra hype and all this extra criticism. I don't know what the case is, but he'll come into these press conferences and he was doing the same thing in the lead up to Oregon, after Oregon, where he says, okay, yeah, we can't win the big games, but 99% of all these other programs in college football would die to be in our spot because we may not win the big ones, but we win all the other ones. And you look at his record. Up until this game, it was like 34-0, 34-game win streak against unranked opponent. Like, yeah, we take care of business against the teams that we're supposed to take care of business against. Well, can you say that now? Nope, not at all. So all this talk and all this self-praise he was giving himself for, hey, yeah, we can't beat Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, but we beat everybody else. And look at what that team in the ACC is doing. Look at that team in the SEC. They were supposed to beat that team by a lot more, but they didn't. Or they were supposed to win that game outright, but they got upset. We don't get upset. We're good. We're fine. Everything's cool here. Nope. Awful. And it's so embarrassing. So embarrassing. This is a loss that we saw for the first 5, 6 years of his tenure, where, okay, we'd lose to Ohio State, or maybe we'd lose to Michigan, whatever the case is, but we're still in it. We still have a shot. We still have a shot at the Big Ten, still have a shot at making it to the playoff, and then we'll lose to Michigan State, or we'll lose to Illinois, or we'll lose to whoever. Minnesota. Minnesota is a perfect example. I thought we had eliminated that game, and I've given Franklin credit for past 3 years. Like, hey, we are taking care of business. I was willing to give into that a little bit. He didn't need to be the one saying it at the podium every single week, but I could acknowledge it. I was clocking it. Okay, yeah, don't take that for granted. Well, now we're right back to where we were for the first 5, 6 years of his tenure, where this was a game that you absolutely could not lose. Because now you're really going to see, is this the first team that James Franklin flat out loses? I give him credit. People love playing for him. The families of these players, they love him. I know he gets a lot of criticism from the fan base. I know a lot of donors do not like him. But the one thing you can't deny is that players love playing for him, and families love sending their kids to play for James Franklin. That'll be put to the test. When you have all these guys who came back from last year, who could have gone pro, but they came back because of unfinished business. Unfinished business. And at best now, you're going 10-2. And that's assuming you can go into Columbus and win. You can beat Indiana. Hell, you could go into Iowa and beat them. That's assuming all that's true. I think you're going to start to see this team really start to slip, because all these guys who came back are going to realize we came back for nothing. It's the first week of October, and the season pretty much over. Why would I try? Why would I risk injury when I know I'm going to be a pro in 6 months, whatever the case is? I'm going to get drafted. What is it worth fighting for in this season? That's the test that we're going to see the rest of this year. If Penn State can pass it, I don't think we'll pass with flying colors. That's for sure. My God. All these resources. Best coaching staff that he's ever had. I still make the case it's the best coaching staff that Penn State has ever had. You go out, you get Jim Knowles, make him the highest paid coordinator in the country. You bring back all these guys. You get all this national championship level hype. We're making strides in NIL. We're putting more money into the program. Pat Kraft is doing a hell of a job. And it results in, again, at best, a 10-2 season, which is not something to strive for. We've done 10-2 before. People were telling me after last week, like, hey, you guys could still make the playoff. Making the playoff, it's not the goal. We made the playoff last year. We're looking to be better than last year. We would have made the playoff 5 or 6 times if the playoff had always been 12 teams and not 4. Like, yeah, we're always going to be in the playoff mix. That's not the point. We needed to come out this year and win the Oregon game and get the monkey off our back in these big games and prove to people, no, Penn State's not fucking around. We needed to set the standard that, no, we're going to be dominant. We're going to do what we want to do in these games. These other teams, they're not dictating the pace of play. They're not dictating us and how we operate. No, we are the aggressor. And you should be scared shitless to play Penn State football in 2025. Was UCLA scared at all today? That was a team playing with nothing to lose. We were playing like a team that had everything to lose. And you really have to question, again, the 1-0 mindset of Franklin. It seems Like he's got this formula that he rolls out every single week, and it's very robotic. And like they were due for a stinker because and again they keep coming out slow in all these games. At some like who is in that locker room, either coach or player, who's lighting a fire in these guys? Like, dude, what are we doing? Today was outrageous. You fell down 27-7 against a team that was 0-4, one of the worst teams in the FBS. 27-7 at halftime. Who's lighting a fire in these guys? Nope, it's the same. Want to know? Every opponent's the same. Every game's the same. You know, where we're not going to get too high, we're not going to get too low. We're going to stay steady Eddie, steady Eddie. No, it enrages me, dude. Enrages me. 27-7, we were down at half. And I said this in my post-game rant on Twitter. It's almost a relief that we lost this game because let's face it, we didn't deserve to win this game, guys. We did not deserve to win this game. And even if we had won, it wouldn't have felt right, but you would have had James Franklin up there at that podium, the PR guy that he is, saying, you know, this team showed a lot of fight, and you know, we don't have to worry about any of the stuff that went wrong. We got to win. We're going to appreciate winning. 99% of programs would love to be in our shoes. Blah 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 blah. He would have rolled out all of that same nonsense that he's been doing for I don't know how long. Now it results in a loss. And you really have to take a look inwards and ask yourself, what the fuck is going on here? What the fuck happened today? Seriously. I think you have to do that if you're Franklin. I think you have to do that if you're Andy Kotelnicki. I think you absolutely have to do that if you're Jim Knowles. And I think you have to ask that question if you're Pat Kraft. Listen, I've never been a fire Franklin guy because I get that it's a much more complex issue than just, oh yeah, we'll fire him and we'll get somebody in here, boom, and we'll win. I get it. It's much more difficult than that. But if there was no such thing as a buyout, there's zero chance James Franklin would be here after this game. Zero chance. Especially now we're in this NIL era where we're already behind and we're trying to catch up to all these other programs. And you can't devote, I think it would be $56 million. That's what I saw on Twitter after the game because people are posting a bunch of stuff about Franklin and firing him. That I don't know that for sure. But you're going to pay a massive buyout when you're already struggling to catch up to these other programs in terms of NIL. Like, I don't see it happening. But, yeah, you just got to admit, man, this is the ceiling. This is the ceiling with Franklin. We're never breaking through. We're never breaking through. This was the year to do it. And I know people get on me all the time because they say, like, Connor, you say every year is the year to do it. No, I don't. No, I don't. I didn't expect last year to make it to the college football semifinal. I could have seen that team going 8-4 or 7-5. This year, no, this was a team that should have been 11-1 or undefeated. And we now have 2 losses. We're 3-2 in the first week of October. Bad, really bad. Specifically with the game, offensively, Drew Aller, like I don't know how you could possibly look at a game like today and say, yeah, he's the problem. Drew Aller is the problem. He's a bad quarterback. He sucks. They should have kept Bo Prabula. Like Drew Aller put the team on his back today. I got to pull up his final stats. I hope this doesn't screw up the recording. 19-26 for 200 yards, had 2 touchdowns in the air, also ran 11 times for 78 yards, and had the play of the day. I mean, aside from the block punt and everything, but the play of the day offensively, it was him on, what was it, 3rd and 7, where he just gets blitzed to death. And it looked like he was going to take a sack. And he stays up, he takes a couple of hits, bounces off of him, and somehow scampers all the way down to the 2-yard line. He doesn't make that play. This game's over well beforehand. Well beforehand. Played a really solid game today. Brought us back into that game. Was doing it all on his own. Because once again, I don't know if it's Kotelnicki. I don't know if the receivers are just as bad as they were last year. Again, I don't think that's the case. I don't know if it's because we missed Tyler Warren. I don't know what it is. People aren't getting open. And there are so many times where he's back there. He's protected, at least in this game he was, and he's got time to throw. And eventually he's just like, okay, then there's nobody open. I got to tuck in and run. And he was doing that. He was our leading rusher today, which is another story. But I just don't see how you could look at him and be like, yeah, this is the root of all these problems for Penn State. I feel terrible for him, especially as a guy, again, with a lot of pro potential. He's coming back and it's absolutely wasted. This entire roster, this entire team, this entire season is wasted. The running backs, my God, when are we going to learn this year that Nick Singleton cannot be getting more carries than Katron Allen? It can't happen. Sorry, something just fell on my desk. It can't happen. It's absolutely ridiculous, dude. I'll pull up the stats on that as well. I got to see this. Katron Allen, 8 carries. 8 carries today, had 2 touchdowns. Nicholas Singleton had 11. Nicholas Singleton, 11 for 39 for 3.5 yards a carry. Katron Allen, 8 for 50 with 6.3. That's been the case this entire season. It is so clear. And part of it is because the offensive line is just not doing their job in the run game. They still have not pieced it together. And part of it might be Stan Drayton coming in, and we no longer have Jaywan Sider, and maybe Nick Singleton and Stan Drayton. It's not the right match in terms of coach player. I don't know, but it's been the case all year where Katron Allen is the better running back, and he's moving your offense down the field more than Nick Singleton is. And honestly, when Nick Singleton is in the game, kind of brings the offense to a halt. Why is he getting more carries than Katron Allen, especially in a game that shouldn't have been do or die, but it was? It's a do or die game where you're having to come from behind and you're still giving Nick Singleton carries. The play on second down, that's the play I'm more furious about as opposed to the 4th down and 2 where we run the fake sweep with Trevor Pena and Drew Aller keeps it. None of those options were open. Whether he had handed it off to Pena, whether he kept it himself, the play was completely blown up. It was so predictable. And we run that I don't know how many times. And against Oregon, it didn't work. This game didn't work. Why are we rolling that out again? Especially after a timeout. It was crazy. Crazy. But the play I'm more mad about is 2 plays earlier where it's 2nd and 10. Drew had just overshot Luke Reynolds a little bit in the end zone. And it was not a great pass, but it was a play that Tyler Warren, Drew Aller, he's used to Tyler Warren making that play. 2nd and 10, we hand it off to Nick Singleton. It goes for minus a yard. And I'm like, why'd you do that? Why, if you're going to hand it off to somebody in that spot, instead of, putting it in Drew Aller's hands when he had gotten you back into the game, put it in Katron Allen's hands. Why are you giving this handoff to Nick Singleton out of the shotgun? It went for nothing. It got blown up right away. He's not a guy at this stage in this year where he's reliable to break tackles or juke people out. That's not who he is. It's not who he is. Katron's that guy. Maybe he could have gotten some positive yardage out of it, but still, I was like, I just hated everything about that. It was malpractice that Katron Allen still is getting less carries than Nick Singleton at this stage in the year. Unbelievable. I'd also say, just in terms of like, what are we doing? The end of the first half, where it was like we were scared to give the ball back to UCLA, which in the context of the game, I guess makes sense. But are you kidding me? 0-4 UCLA. At this point, we're down 24-7. We're trying to like run the clock out, and we're slowing our offense down because, yeah, we want to score, but more importantly, we don't want to give UCLA the ball back. We're too scared of that. So we're letting the clock bleed and bleed and bleed, and we get into a 4th down situation with, 30 seconds left? And we go for it, and it doesn't result in a 1st down. And USC still had time to get points. They still kicked a field goal before the half. You had completely taken the offense out of a rhythm. You could have gone down the field and scored and made it a 2-possession game when you're then getting the ball out of the half to start the 3rd quarter. Like, we just completely turtled up and said, no, well, we got to play conservative. We got to take our time here because we don't want to give the ball back to UCLA. 0-4 UCLA. It was baffling, especially after Franklin had the whole situation last week against Oregon where we decided to punt from, what was it, like the 35 or whatever the case was. Like, it would have been a long field goal, but Ryan Barker maybe could have made it. And we decided to punt. It results in a touchback, and we gain like 15 yards net. Like, it was just ridiculous. And then that today, I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Mismanagement. And then defensively, you talk about mismanagement. Oh my God. I do want to start off by saying, again, not to toot my own horn. When I say this stuff, I don't say this stuff lightly. It's not like I just throw it out there willy nilly. I mean what I say. I put a lot of thought into what I say. I said all of last year, Dom DeLuca is a problem. Not in a good way. It's a bad problem. He was awful today. Oh my God, he was awful today. And he had to slide into that role because, of course, Tony Rojas is out now with a long-term injury. Franklin still being weird about that, still not telling us what it is. The broadcast is having to infer that, like, Tony Rojas is maybe sitting out because he wants to redshirt or whatever. Like, just tell the media what it is. Tell the media what the injury is. But he's still like so coy and like he holds that stuff back. I'm like, it's just so weird. But anyway, Dom DeLuca, he's in the game, and I knew right away. First of all, linebacker coming into the year was by far the thinnest position group. And it was a position group that struggled a lot last year. They struggled today because you didn't have Rojas, who finally was healthy this season and finally could tackle because he didn't have a nagging shoulder injury. He's gone, and Dom DeLuca just, I mean, could not keep contained, was so out of position at so many times, and he's too slow to make up for it. He doesn't have that athleticism. Bad. And then on the defensive line, Deni Dennis Sutton and Zane Durant, they've been here 4 years. There are two stars on the defensive line, veteran players. They played so much football, and they had two horrendous, boneheaded penalties today. Boneheaded penalties today where they jumped off sides. And the Zane Durant one, it was like, oh my God, it was so obvious that, of course, they're going to try and draw you off sides. They've already gotten you on the two clap, and they just did the same thing again. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. I mean, it was ridiculous. They could not get a stop. And when they finally do get a stop to end the game in a moment where you're like, oh my God, Penn State's going to get the ball back with 30 yards to go and all three timeouts, like they're going to score. They're going to tie this game up. Yeah, the offense doesn't score because we give the ball to Nick Singleton on 2nd and 10, goes for less than a yard. And then we have the terrible decision on 4th and 2. That's worse than 4th and 5, by the way, against Ohio State. That's way worse because at least the 4th and 5 against Ohio State back in 2018, you could see like, oh yeah, if that guy makes that block, that actually might have worked. This one, UCLA had this snuffed out right away. But anyway, back to our defense. Jim Knowles, I mean, yeah, just a horrendous, horrendous day. I keep saying horrendous, but that's what it was. It was pitiful. And I don't know if it was the challenges of not having Rojas. I don't know if it was the challenges of having to prepare for a team that is, I mean, they were cleaning house mid-season. New head coach, interim head coach, I should say. New play caller, new everything. I don't know if there was enough to prepare for this game for Jim Knowles. I don't know. But once we got into the course of the game and it started to play out, I was like, okay, we should probably see some adjustments here, right? Probably should. And Nico was able to run wherever he wanted to run, had the 52-yard run when we're finally getting into the game. And it feels like, oh, we might pull this off. There was a time after the blocked punt that Liam Clifford scoops up, and you have to give credit to Deni. I was criticizing him on the offsides penalties and everything like that. Made a great play on that punt. There was a time we're down 27-21. I was like, oh, we might have this easy. Like, we might win this by multiple scores. If we came back this fast, and now it's a one-possession game, and then Nico runs for 52. We didn't have anybody containing him. We didn't have a spy. There was one point where it was Deni who was the spy. Maybe it's because otherwise it would have had to have been Dom DeLuca, and Jim Knowles didn't trust him in that spot. I don't know. All I know is that this defense, you never had any confidence that they could get off the field today. And that's a bummer. Going up against 0-4 UCLA. When we're we're watching the broadcast and they keep emphasizing, oh yeah, this is Rick Neuheisel's son calling the plays. And Rick, get in here. Let's talk about your son. Let's talk about your son. And he's just running it down our throats. First time he's calling plays for UCLA, hangs 42 on us. Ridiculous, dude. Absolutely ridiculous. You spend $3 million on Jim Knowles in the offseason, make him the highest paid defensive coordinator, highest paid coordinator in general across college football. And that's what you get today. Bad. Really, really bad. All around, it was just terrible, terrible coaching. And the bigger issue is, once again, this team was not prepared to play. Not prepared. It's not on Drew Aller. It's on Franklin and the mentality that he gets his team in. It's on Kotelnicki to have a good game plan and a good script. And it's on Knowles to come out. They weren't prepared at all. At all. I don't know what else to say. I'm sure a lot of people in the comments are wanting to say fire Franklin. Yeah, I have no faith in the guy. No faith, no confidence. A lot of season left to play. Technically, yeah, this team could still beat Ohio State. They could still beat maybe a top 10 Indiana. Maybe they could still backdoor their way into the college football playoff, but does anybody think that right now? Penn State, the laughingstock of college football today, did not think we would be in this spot. I was going to say, a month ago, 3 months, I didn't think we'd be in this spot 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. Nope. Laughingstock. I'm struggling. I'm really, really struggling. I think that's pretty much all I had to say specifically about the game. I'm trying to parse through in my mind, like what I want to say. Yeah, that's pretty much all about the game specifically. I need to see change. And there are a lot of people who are going to be saying in the comments, well, we've had problems year to year. There have been issues that are, 1 year they're a thing, the next year they're not. There are times we have good coordinators. There are times we have bad ones. There are times that, we have the right quarterback and we don't. The one consistent theme is that it's Franklin. Franklin is the one guy who has been here as now for the past 8 seasons. We've been trying to take this next step and we haven't. We should probably look at him. And after this game, yeah. If that's your logic, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I'm not going to tell you you're crazy for that. Pretty good logic. So, brutal. I don't know where to go from here. I really don't. I'm going to end the video, though. Just once again, the worst loss I've ever experienced as a Penn State fan. And we should be embarrassed. And we should absolutely be critical. Don't let anybody ever tell you, oh, you're crazy. I would die to win 10 games. I would love for my program to be in New Year's 6 bowl games or be competing for a playoff spot or whatever. Don't let anybody tell you that. There need to be feet held to the flame here. This is inexcusable. This is disgraceful. And I don't want to hear anybody telling me you're overreacting because I'm not. I am not. It's been 8 years we've been trying to break through and get to that next level as a program. And this was the best shot to do it this year. Look where it wound up. Look where it wound up. That's going to do it for me. I'm going to watch some Phillies baseball. This has been Connor Griffin signing off. I'll catch you.